Welcome back to the deep dive. If you are chasing that perfect drive tone, you know the one, adds grit, sustain, clarity, but doesn't just squash your amp flat, then yeah, today's deep dive is definitely for you. We're looking at the MXR M294 Sugar Drive. Tiny pedal, big promises.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, mostly because, well, it's not pretending it's something radically new. It's pretty upfront about taking its cues from that, let's call it the mythical overdrive, the one.
The K word.
Right, the circuit that launched like 1,000 pedals. MXR has basically packed that DNA into this mini format, super pedal board friendly.
Okay, so that's our mission then. How did MXR get that really sought-after, transparent, clonish thing into such a small box? We need to figure out how it delivers these clear tones, everything from just like boosting your signal to a pretty rich overdrive.
And the key phrase there is clear and transparent. That's the whole design idea.
Right, MXR says it preserves the character of your guitar and amp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When people talk about that original mythical circuit, they weren't usually after like heavy metal distortion. It was about the feel, like your amp is just naturally starting to saturate.
Okay, so it's meant to push what you've already got over the edge, not paint over it completely.
Yeah, precisely. It's about enhancing, not replacing. So if you want that clarity, you want the low end to stay solid, you want your picking dynamics to actually matter, that's where this pedal aims to live.
Keep your tone sounding like your tone, just more.
Yeah.
Louder, maybe tighter, more harmonics.
And we can really pin that signature sound down to two main things MXR did here, architecturally speaking. First off is how the gain itself works.
Okay.
The drive knob isn't just cranking up distortion. It's actually gradually blending your clean, dry signal with the overdriven one.
Ah, okay. The blend thing. That makes sense why it can sound so natural then. You're not just flipping a switch clean to dirty.
Exactly. You're easing into it, bringing that driven sound underneath the clean signal's attack.
So even with the drive turned up, there's still some of your original signal keeping things defined.
Pretty much. At zero drive, you get like a clean boost and buffer, but as you turn it up, you're mixing in more and more of that drive circuit. That clean signal underneath is what keeps the low end punchy and stops chords turning into mush, which, a lot of standard drives can do.
Okay, so that covers the transparency side, especially at lower gain. But what about when you crank it? People say it sounds really open and big, not choked. How do they get that from a tiny pedal?
Right, this is the cool engineering bit. The second key piece from that mythical circuit, headroom. Lots of headroom.
Headroom, okay. How?
MXR put in what they call a voltage doubler. Technically, it's a charge pump circuit. Basically, it takes the 9 volts you feed it, and it internally bumps it up.
Ah, okay. So even though I'm plugging in my standard 9-volt adapter, and you have to, right? No battery.
No battery compartment, no.
Yeah.
It's that adapter. But yeah, internally, it's running at a higher voltage.
And the benefit for me, the player, is
more headroom. That higher voltage means the circuit doesn't run out of room so quickly when you hit it hard. Standard 9-volt pedals, they can clip really fast, gets kind of brittle and compressed sounding, squash.
Right, that feeling where it just collapses if you dig in too hard.
Yeah.
So higher voltage means the sound has more space to breathe.
Exactly. It prevents the signal hitting that ceiling too soon. That's why people describe it as open instead of compressed. And the big plus is it means the pedal is super responsive to your playing.
Like an amp.
Yeah, kind of like an extension of your amp. You can use your guitar's volume knob to clean it up. You can pick harder for more grit, softer for cleaner tones. It really reacts to you.
That's pretty impressive, fitting that kind of boutique-style circuit thinking into a mini pedal. What about the nuts and bolts? Power draw, control?
Yeah, good point. Physical specs are straightforward. It's that mini housing, obviously saves space, needs 9 volts DC, center negative, standard stuff. And the current draw is actually pretty low for something with a charge pump, only about 18.5 milliamps.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's easy for any power supply.
Totally manageable. And controls are dead simple. Volume for the overall level out, tone, which basically rules off highs to warm it up if you need, and that all-important drive knob for the blend and the amount of overdrive.
Simple, effective, nice.
Okay, so let's talk tone. We mentioned transparency, but the feedback we looked at gets specific. People talk about excellent high-end clarity, a sparkle. We saw one quote, the high end is super clear yet warm.
Hang on, though. If the goal is pure transparency, not coloring the sound, why is everyone praising its specific sparkle? Doesn't adding sparkle mean it is coloring the tone, just, subtly?
That's the million-dollar question with any transparent drive, isn't it? It's a great point. I think the answer is in how that original mythical circuit worked. It wasn't truly flat or colorless. It's transparent, mainly in that it doesn't mess up your mid-range or squash your dynamics. but it does tend to emphasize certain upper mids and highs, kind of where your pick attack lives.
Okay, so the sparkle isn't some weird EQ added on top. It's more like highlighting the natural harmonics that are already there when you drive the signal in a musical way.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly. And getting that combo, that high-end clarity with a clean low end, that's the tricky part, and that's the big selling point here.
And the practical benefit, cutting through a mix.
Huge benefit there. Yeah. If you're playing with a band, bass, drums, maybe keyboards, you need something that cuts without getting fizzy or lost in the mud. The Sugar Drive does that really well because of that clarity in the highs. It slices through.
Sounds like a really useful tool for gigging. And that dynamic range, the headroom, it seems like it covers a lot of ground from just a clean-ish boost right up to a proper lead sound.
Totally. Let's maybe walk through some of those settings examples we found, because they really show how versatile it could be. It's not just a one-trick pony.
Yeah, good idea. Let's start at the beginning. Clean boost. So drive knob way down, like 9 o'clock. Volume pushed up, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock.
That setting is great for just adding body and presence. You get very little actual breakup, but it pushes the front end of your amp beautifully. If your amp's already kind of on the edge, this just kicks it into that sweet spot. Really dynamic.
Nice. Okay, then moving up, crunch rhythm, drive maybe around noon, volume maybe back a bit to 1 o'clock, tone rolled off slightly like 11.
Yeah, that's classic territory. Warm overdrive, good for rock, blues. But crucially, because of that clean blend we talked about, chords still sound clear, individual notes don't get smeared together into, mud soup.
Still articulate. Got it. And then for leads, lead overdrive. Push the drive past noon, maybe 1 o'clock or even higher, volume up again to match maybe 2 or 3.
Right, now the drive character is much more prominent. But because of the headroom, it doesn't sound choked or thin. It's bright, it sustains well, and that high-end clarity keeps your pick attack really defined. Helps the solo jump out.
It sounds like MXR really thought about how people would actually use it in a rig too. Placement and stuff.
Yeah, they did. The recommendation is pretty standard for this type of drive. Put it early.
Yeah.
After your tuner, maybe after a buffer if you use one standalone, but before things like chorus, delay, reverb.
Right, so the overdrive hits the amp's front end, then the modulation and time effects happen after the gain structure is set. Makes the echoes and swirls sound cleaner.
Exactly. And that ties into another neat feature. They added that little buffer switch on the side.
Oh yeah, the buffer option, true bypass or buffered.
Right. Default is true bypass. But if you've got like miles of cable or a massive pedal board with tons of pedals, switching into buffered bypass can really help. It keeps your signal strong and bright even when the Sugar Drive is off. Prevents that dreaded tone suck.
That's actually a huge plus. Basically a free, high-quality buffer built in if you need it. Nice touch.
Definitely. And it makes sense why this pedal is often recommended for players using really clean amps, like, big Fender amps or boutique cleans, or even just players who want their amp to do the main breakup and just use the pedal to nudge it further.
So where does it sit in the grand scheme of overdrive pedals, market-wise?
It's squarely in that transparent to slightly colored camp. It's very openly marketed as, an accessible way to get that Kalon-style thing. Minimal tonal change, mostly about boosting or driving cleanly.
Which makes pretty different from some other MXR drives, right? Like the Super Badass Distortion.
Completely different beasts, yeah.
Yeah.
The M294 Super Badass is all about heavy saturation, strong EQ shaping, much more coloration. The Sugar Drive is way, way lighter on that. If you want heavy grunt mid-scoop, Sugar Drive, isn't it?
Gotcha. It's about clarity and preserving your core sound.
Exactly. Which kind of brings us to the wrap-up, the pros and the things to consider.
Okay, let's recap. Key strength. Definitely the compact size, that clever blend mechanism for the drive, the massive headroom from the voltage doubler, that high-end clarity and articulation we talked about, and that buffer true bypass switch is a nice flexible touch.
For sure. But there are trade-offs, like with anything. If you're used to pedals that have a really strong, thick mid-range character or a specific low-end thump,
this might feel different. Yeah. You kind of have to like your starting tone, right? If your amp and guitar sound dull on their own, this pedal isn't going to magically fix that. It'll just make it a louder, driven, dull sound.
Precisely. And that subtlety, that transparency. Some players might just hear it as lacking character, especially if they're used to pedals that really stamp their own sound onto everything. It's about enhancing, not transforming.
And remember the practical thing. Needs that 9V adapter. No battery.
Right. Minor point, but worth noting. for some setups.
So bringing it all together then, the Sugar Drive seems pretty significant because it manages to bring those typically boutique overdrive features, the headroom, the blending, the clarity into a regular MXR pedal. Compact, practical.
Yeah, it really nails that need for a drive that works with your existing gear, enhancing the feel and the dynamics rather than just plastering over it. Proves you don't need some huge, unobtainable box to get that kind of circuit architecture working.
It's a great example of taking a classic idea and making it accessible. But based on everything we've discussed, the transparency versus that subtle sparkle, it does leave us with a final thought, doesn't it?
The big question, really. Can the Sugar Drive truly be your one-pedal drive solution, covering boost, rhythm, lead like some people use it? Or does chasing that ultimate transparency mean you end up sacrificing too much of that unique, identifiable character that some players want from their drive pedal?
Yeah. Where's the line between pristine clarity and, well, sonic personality? Something for you to think about as you explore your own tone. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.